Hello, this is TJR with a review of Fetch the Bolt Cutters, the new album by Fiona Apple. I have been following Fiona Apple's music ever since her first album, Title, was released in 1996. Back then, like most of the general public, I was blown away that someone could sing and write songs on a level of human experience that I certainly wasn't capable of writing at twice the age that she was then. In 1999, she released her follow-up entitled When the Pawn. At that time, I was just hoping for a solid follow-up, and instead, I got what was, in my opinion, a masterpiece. Yes, you heard me say that. This album was heavily criticized when it came out, and had the internet and YouTube existed then in the way it does now, I would have definitely gone online and defended it. I thought it was a masterpiece then, and I think it's a masterpiece now. And someday I should take the time to do a more in-depth examination of it. After that, it was 6 years till 2005's release of Extraordinary Machine, which I enjoyed. Maybe not as much as the previous two albums, but I definitely enjoyed it. 7 years later, she released 2012's The Idler Wheel. Now, I can't say that I disliked that album, but I did find myself feeling kind of mildly unconnected to a good portion of it, even though I did enjoy some of it. This brings me to her fifth album, 2020's Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Released last week, the album has already received an impressive amount of critical acclaim, and it has been given the distinction of being the first album in 10 years that Pitchfork has given a perfect score to. I have to admit, though, that when I first listened to the album, after about 6 songs in, I found myself thinking, this album, it's a little bit weird, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Over the years, I have had the pleasure of enjoying a lot of music that would probably get referred to as weird by most of the general public. Frank Zappa's dark criticism of the 60s hippie movement, "We're only in it for the money," would be a good example. By the way, before I go any further, I do want to add that enjoying music that a lot of people might think is a bit weird or strange does not make me in any way better than those who don't like it. It just means that I liked it, that's all. So let's talk a little bit about some of the songs on the album. Track 1, entitled I Want You to Love Me, features a very beautiful, pastoral, and classically influenced piano melody. And the sereneness of this melody belies just how heated this album will soon become. In this song, Fiona sings about the elasticity of time and how experiences from her past give her revelations in the present, and that understanding this gives her the foreknowledge that experiences that are happening now will bring her revelations in the future. Or to put it more simply, you will never know everything. And through it all, she hopes that you could be interpreted to mean anyone, from whoever she is in a relationship with to you, the audience that listens to her music, will still love her when that time comes. I would say that's pretty heady stuff for your first song, but then about 3 minutes and 40 seconds in, the song's very comfortable 4/4 rhythm becomes disrupted by a faster and more frantic piano performance, while Fiona starts to use her voice to sound like what I can only best describe as a human synthesizer envelope filter setting and a neighing horse. At this point, the idea that the rest of this album's remaining 12 tracks will give us any melodies as reassuring or as easy as the piano opening of I Want You to Love Me falls by the wayside. This is followed by the frantic piano of Shamika, a song that recalls the daily brutality and stress that is going to public school during adolescence. While Apple's real experience with a real classmate, Shamika, is uniquely personal to her, it's dead on in its description of living through this age of cliques and bullies, and universal for any of us who grew up being labeled as, or thought of ourselves as being anything other than the elusive normal that we thought the rest of the world expected us to be. And while it may not be the only theme of the album, I think it's safe to say that one of Fetch the Bolt Cutters' predominant themes and reoccurring themes is confronting the trauma and pains of the past. And I think that for a lot of us, including myself, most of that resides in adolescence. I am guessing the same is true for Fiona Apple, since the album's lyrics seem to, at least for me, be referencing that time period the most. In a recent interview, though, the artist has stated that Fetch the Bolt Cutters is about breaking out of whatever prison you've allowed yourself to live in. Whether you built that prison yourself or whether it was built around you and you just accepted it. The album ignores popular music's traditional verse-chorus structures and places a heavy emphasis on rhythm, oftentimes playing down melody in favor of it. And this may be why at first I found myself a bit perplexed on first listen, since I am such a strong disciple of melody over rhythm. But as I have listened over the week, and as I have listened to what I would describe as some of Fiona's most intricate piano playing ever, more and more of those melodies that might not have been as obvious on the surface have taken seed and become more prevalent. But its lyrics are apropos in describing the daily verbal and physical threat of bullying that was adolescence as easily as it is in describing the constant baiting and sniping that is modern internet culture. At times it feels, to me at least, like she is making a comparison of how in some ways we have changed so little from the tribalism we fell into as kids going to school to the online tribalism that we engage in on the internet now. And I should also point out that there are also songs like Under the Table, a song whose core melody and lyrical chorus feels like a drinking song that has been handed down from generation to generation from centuries ago, only to be reimagined in the modern age by Fiona Apple. It wasn't, by the way. She created the song from whole cloth in the present day. There have been songs from the Beatles and Queen that successfully melded the traditional melodic aspects of musical theater to popular music, and I think it's fair to say that many of the songs on Fetch the Bolt Cutters melds the genre of experimental music theater with popular music in the same way. As of this writing, there are still some songs like Rack of his that, for the most part, baffles me. But so much more of the album has musically intrigued me in ways that I could never see coming. I realize that Fetch the Bolt Cutters may not be one of those albums that pretty much anyone can enjoy. And I have to say that if you appreciate pushing musical boundaries or have any love for Fiona Apple's past work as I do, you have to at least give Fetch the Bolt Cutters a week before you pass judgment on it. You may walk away from it still no more connected to it than when you started, but you might also begin to feel the strong possibility that you're just beginning to scratch the surface with this album. I have fallen into the latter category. This is TJR, and those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this album? Please leave your comments. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. Please click like, click subscribe, and smash the bell notification icon so you can know when I release new videos. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stay safe and healthy.